The glass from the broken wine bottle had sliced my palm open, but all I could focus on was the way Luca's thumb traced the edge of the cut, his face too close, his voice too soft. And then my phone lit up on the desk behind him with a single word that made my heart stop. Upstairs. I pulled my hand back so fast that Luca flinched. "Ava! It's fine." My voice came out strangled. I grabbed my phone with my good hand, the screen still glowing with that single word from a number I didn't have saved because I didn't need to. Everyone in this building knew RT when they saw it. "I have to go. You're still bleeding." Luca reached for the first aid kit we kept in the corridor office, his brow furrowed with the kind of concern that had made me trust him more than anyone else in the 6 months I'd worked here. "At least let me finish," he said upstairs. Luca went still. His eyes widened slightly. "He texted you directly." The question landed like a stone in my stomach because Luca was right to be surprised. In 6 months of working here, I'd never gotten a direct message from Rafael Torrente. Never been called upstairs. Never even spoken to the man beyond a single, "Good evening, sir," when he'd walked past me in the dining room 3 months ago. He hadn't acknowledged me then. Hadn't even looked at me. I didn't think he knew my name. I stared at the phone, my hand starting to shake. I don't know why he wants to see me. Did something happen? With the books? The schedule? No, everything's fine. The restaurant's doing well. Better than it was when I started. I'd made sure of it, working 12-hour days to turn the place around. To prove I deserved this job, this salary, this chance to finally keep my head above water. "Then maybe it's good news," Lucas said. But he didn't sound convinced. Neither was I. "I have to go." I pressed the bandage into my palm, wincing at the sting. "Can you cover the floor?" "Of course. Ava." He caught my arm gently. "It'll be fine. You've done amazing work here. He probably just wants to tell you that." I nodded, not believing it for a second, and headed for the elevator. My heart slammed against my ribs as the car rose. I tried to think of what I could have done wrong. The revenue was up 18% since I'd started. Staff turnover had dropped. We'd gotten 3 excellent reviews in the past month. The health inspection had been flawless. So why did I feel like I was walking to my execution? The top floor was quiet in a way that made my skin prickle. I'd never been up here before, didn't even know if I was allowed to be up here. Raphael's office door was open. I stopped in the doorway, my throat dry, and knocked softly on the frame. "Mr. Torrente." "Close the door, come in." His voice was quieter than I expected, calmer. It didn't help the fear turning my stomach inside out. I stepped inside and closed the door, the click of the latch too loud in the silence. He was standing at the windows, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. I'd seen Rafael Torrente from a distance dozens of times, crossing the dining room, getting into black SUVs, standing in the corner during private events with men who looked like they ate danger for breakfast. But I'd never been alone with him. Never been close enough to notice the way his shoulders filled out his suit jacket or the silver at his temples that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less. "How's your hand?" I froze. How did he? "It's fine, sir. Just a cut." "Show me." I crossed the carpet slowly, stopping a few feet behind him, and held up my bandaged palm. He turned, and the full weight of his attention hit me like a shockwave. Dark eyes moved from my hand to my face, studying me with an intensity that made me want to step back and hold perfectly still at the same time. "Luca wrapped that for you." "Yes, sir." My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "He's good at taking care of people." Raphael moved closer, and every instinct I had screamed at me to run. "It's why I put him in operations. He builds loyalty. Makes people feel safe." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. "He makes you feel safe, doesn't he, Ava?" The sound of my name in his mouth shocked me silent. He knew my name. Rafael Torrente knew my name. I swallowed hard. "I trust him, yes. I know you do." He stepped even closer, and I caught the scent of his cologne, something dark and expensive that made my head spin. "I can see it. The way you look at him, the way you let him touch you." Heat flooded my face. "Sir, we're not, I watched the whole thing, Ava." His hand came up and took my bandaged palm, his touch careful, controlled. "You sitting on that desk. him between your knees, very intimate. Oh God, the cameras. It wasn't like that, I said desperately. He was just helping me. I cut my hand on a broken bottle and I know exactly what he was doing. His thumb found my pulse point at my wrist, and I felt the traitorous flutter of my heartbeat against his skin. What I want to know is why you looked at him like that? Like what? The question came out as barely a whisper. Like you've never had anyone take care of you before. The observation hit too close, cut too deep. I tried to pull my hand back, but his grip tightened just enough to keep me in place. I don't understand what's happening, I said, and hated how my voice shook. I don't understand why I'm what? His other hand came up to my face, fingers curling under my chin and tilting it up so I couldn't look away. Why I called you up here, why I've been watching you. The words stuck in my throat. I didn't know you even knew I existed. Something flickered across his face, not quite a smile, darker than that. I've known you existed since the day you started, Ava. I know you live in Queens and send half your paycheck home. I know you stayed late every night for the first 2 months to reorganize the entire inventory system. I know your sister is in nursing school and your parents can't help with tuition. I know you dropped out of college yourself when the money ran out. His thumb brushed across my lower lip and my breath caught. I know everything about you. I have from the beginning. The room tilted. Why? It came out broken, confused. Because you're good at what you do. Because you're loyal to the people under you. Because you turned this restaurant into something profitable without me having to micromanage you. His hand dropped from my face, but he didn't step back. Because I wanted to see if you were as competent as the numbers said you were, and you are. Then why am I here? My hands were shaking. I pressed them against my sides. If I'm doing a good job, why? Because watching you with Luca today reminded me of something I'd forgotten. His voice dropped lower, quieter, more dangerous. I don't share what's mine. I'm not, I started, but he cut me off with a look. You work for me. This restaurant answers to me. Everyone in this building belongs to me in one way or another. He picked up a tablet from his desk and turned the screen toward me. Security footage. The corridor. Luca's hands on mine, my face tilted up toward his. Both of us too close. This ends now, Raphael said. Luca is being reassigned effective immediately. What? No! Panic surged hot and sharp. You can't. He didn't do anything wrong. Neither of us did. He got too comfortable. That's his mistake. Raphael set the tablet down. Yours was letting him. Please. I hated begging, but I couldn't let Luca pay for this. Don't punish him because of me. He's good at his job. The restaurant needs him. You don't need him. The words were flat. Final. You need this job. You need your salary. You need to keep sending money home so your sister can finish school, and your parents can keep their heat on this winter. That's what you need, Ava. And I'm the one who gives it to you, not Luca. Me. The air left my lungs. He knew. He knew everything. So here's how this works from now on. He stepped closer, backing me up against his desk, caging me in with his presence. You report directly to me. Any problems, any questions, any concerns, you bring them to me. No one else. Understood? My mind was racing, trying to find a way out, trying to understand how I'd gone from invisible to trapped in the span of one text message. My sister's tuition is due in 2 weeks. If I lose this job, you won't lose it. His hand came up to my face again, and I flinched. He paused, then continued the movement slowly, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. As long as you remember who you answer to now. Tears burned at the back of my throat, but I forced them down. Yes, sir. Good. He stepped back, giving me space to breathe again. You can go. I turned toward the door on shaking legs. Ava. I stopped, my hand on the doorknob, not trusting myself to look back. If you need to send money home early, tell me. I can advance your paycheck. A pause. I take care of what's mine. I fled. Luca was gone by morning. I arrived at the restaurant at 10 to find his office cleared out, his nameplate removed, his keys turned in. Marco Bellini, head of security for all of Raphael's legitimate businesses, was standing in the corridor with a clipboard when I walked in. "Morning, Ms. Calder," he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Luca's been transferred to the Brooklyn operations. I'll be your primary security contact going forward." I forced myself to nod. "Thank you. Mr. Torrente asked me to remind you that he'll be stopping by this afternoon to review the week's numbers with you personally." Of course he would. I spent the morning trying to focus on prep, inventory counts, staff schedules, a new wine delivery that needed to be logged. But my hands kept shaking, and twice I had to redo the same column of numbers because I couldn't concentrate. My phone buzzed at 2 p.m. I'm downstairs. I smoothed my skirt, checked my reflection in the office window, and went down to meet him. Raphael was standing near the host stand, and the entire front-of-house staff had gone unnaturally quiet. He wore a different suit today, charcoal gray, tailored so perfectly it probably cost more than my monthly rent. And his attention was on his phone until I approached. Then those dark eyes lifted, found me, and didn't let go. "Mr. Torrente," I kept my voice professional, steady. "The numbers are ready upstairs if you'd like to." "Show me the floor first." It wasn't a request. I led him through the dining room, hyper-aware of his presence behind me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him, the weight of his attention on the back of my neck. Servers moved out of our way without being asked. The bartender stopped mid-pour to nod respectfully. Everyone knew who he was, what he was. "You changed the layout," Raphael said quietly. I glanced back, surprised. 2 weeks ago, the old configuration had a bottleneck near the kitchen doors. This flows better. "Revenue's up since then." "Yes, sir, about 4%. "I know." He stepped closer, his hand settling briefly on the small of my back, as we moved past a server carrying a tray. The touch was possessive, deliberate. "I read your reports." Heat flooded through me at the contact, and I hated my body for responding. He stayed for an hour, watched me handle a difficult customer complaint, observed the kitchen during the dinner rush prep, asked questions about my menu decisions, my staff training protocols, my plans for the holidays. It should have felt like a normal management review. It didn't. Because the whole time, he stood too close, spoke too quietly, forcing me to lean in to hear him. Let his hand brush mine when I showed him updated reservations on the tablet. And everyone noticed. I could see it in the way my staff watched us. The careful speculation, the new wariness in how they treated me. By the time he left, I felt like I'd been marked. It went on like that for a week. He came by 3 more times, always unannounced. Always finding reasons to be near me, to touch me. A hand at my elbow when we reviewed seating charts, fingers brushing mine when he handed me his empty espresso cup, his body too close behind me when we stood at the bar going over the liquor inventory. I told myself it was a power play, a reminder of what he'd said in his office. I don't share what's mine. But my body didn't care about logic. My pulse jumped every time he walked in. My skin went hot when he said my name. And at night, alone in my apartment in Queens, I lay awake hating myself for the way I reacted to him. I missed Luca, missed the easy safety of our working relationship, missed having someone I could trust. Now I had no one. Whatever I'd briefly wondered about my feelings for him, I knew now it had only ever been about feeling safe, not about being in love. On Thursday, Marco pulled me aside after the lunch rush. "We've got a problem," he said, his expression grim. "Someone's been accessing the delivery schedules, changing drop-off times, rerouting shipments." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "Last night's wine delivery never showed up. I checked the logs this morning. Someone altered the vendor portal from inside our system." He pulled up his tablet, showing me a screen full of timestamps and IP addresses that meant nothing to me. It's happened twice before, but smaller. This time, they hit us hard. We're short 3 cases of the Barolo for this weekend's private event. "Can we reorder?" "Not in time, and that's not the worst part." Marco's jaw tightened. "The access code used?" It was one of Luca's old credentials. "No." "That's not possible," I said immediately. "Luca wouldn't. I'm not saying he did it himself, but someone's using his codes. Either he gave them out or," Marco paused, "or he's still got access he shouldn't have. Have you told Mr. Torrente? Not yet. Wanted to talk to you first, see if you knew anything. I shook my head, my mind racing. Luca's loyal. I'd stake my job on it. Might have to, Marco said quietly. Boss doesn't like leaks, and he really doesn't like being made to look stupid about personnel decisions. He left me standing in the corridor, my heart pounding. I knew what this looked like, knew how it would play to Raphael's worst instincts. The jealous suspicion I'd already seen in his office, the wound he'd hinted at about betrayal and trust. If he thought Luca was behind this. I pulled out my phone and texted the number I wasn't supposed to have anymore. We need to talk, it's important. Luca's reply came fast. Can't. New assignment. What's wrong? Someone's using your old access codes. Messing with deliveries. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I changed all my passwords when I transferred. Someone must have pulled the old ones from the system. Marco's going to tell Raphael. Fuck. I know you didn't do this. Doesn't matter what you know. Matters what he thinks. The truth of that settled like lead in my stomach. Raphael showed up an hour later. I was in my office going through vendor contracts when I heard his voice in the hallway. My door opened without a knock. We need to talk. Marco stood behind him, tablet in hand, expression carefully neutral. I stood up slowly. I heard about the delivery issue. Did you? Raphael closed the door, leaving Marco outside. What else did you hear? That someone used old credentials. That it might look like... I stopped, choosing my words carefully. That it might seem like Luca was involved. Seem like. His voice was dangerously soft. The logs are very clear, Ava. Logs can be faked. Codes can be stolen. You're defending him. He moved closer, his eyes dark with something that made my skin prickle. Even now. Even when the evidence... The evidence is circumstantial, I cut in, and immediately regretted it when his expression went cold. You don't get to tell me what the evidence says. I'm not trying to... I took a breath, forced myself to stay calm. I'm just saying Luca's been loyal to you for years. This doesn't make sense. What makes sense, Raphael said quietly, is that he had access. He had motive, being reassigned because of you. And now my inventory is compromised and my event is at risk. So let me help you find out who really did it. The words came out before I could stop them. Raphael went very still. Excuse me? I know this restaurant better than anyone. I know the systems, the staff, the patterns. I stepped closer, even though every instinct screamed at me to back away. Let me help you investigate. Go through the security footage, check the schedules, look for inconsistencies. If Luca really is behind this, I'll find the proof. But if he's not, then someone else in my organization is betraying me. His hand came up to my face, fingers curling around my jaw. And you want to be the one to find them. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? I know you won't hurt me, I said, and his eyes flashed. Don't be so sure, but his thumb was stroking along my cheekbone, gentle despite his words, and we both knew he was lying. Please, I said softly, don't punish him until we know for sure. Give me a week. If I can't find anything, then do what you have to do. And what do I get in return? The question hung between us, loaded with meaning I didn't want to examine too closely. What do you want? Your complete honesty, he said. About everything, the restaurant, the staff, Luca. His thumb moved to my lower lip. What you're thinking, what you're feeling. No more hiding from me. It felt like signing my soul away, but Luca's life might depend on it. Okay, I whispered. Say it properly. I'll be completely honest with you about everything. Good girl, the words sent heat spiraling through me, and from the way his eyes darkened, he knew it. We start tonight, after closing, my office. He left me there, shaking, wondering what I'd just agreed to. I should have gone home after we closed at 11. Instead, I found myself riding the elevator to the top floor, my stomach in knots, my mind screaming that this was a terrible idea. Raphael was waiting in his office, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, surrounded by tablets and monitors showing different camera angles of the restaurant. Come here, I crossed to his desk. He pulled out the chair beside him, not across from him, beside him, and waited until I sat. We're going to go through every delivery in the past month, he said. Every access log, every camera timestamp. You're going to tell me if you see anything unusual, anyone acting strangely, any pattern that doesn't fit. We worked for 2 hours. At first, it was purely professional, me pointing out normal routines, him cross-referencing against security protocols. But as the night deepened, the space between us seemed to shrink. His arm would brush mine when he reached for a different tablet. His hand would settle on the back of my chair when he leaned in to see what I was pointing at. There, I said, freezing a frame from 3 weeks ago. That's the night manager, but he's not supposed to be in the storage area. That's vendor-only access. Raphael's attention sharpened. What's his name? Tommy Ricci. He's been here for 4 months. Luca hired him. Of course he did. Something bitter crossed his face. Luca has excellent taste in people. The comment felt like an insult and a compliment tangled together. It might be nothing, I said. Maybe he was just... Or maybe it's exactly what we're looking for. Raphael pulled up more footage, his shoulder pressed against mine now. Keep watching. Tell me every time you see him in places he shouldn't be. We found 3 more instances. By the time we finished, it was past 2 a.m., and my eyes were burning with exhaustion, but I'd forgotten to be afraid, forgotten to keep my distance. Somewhere in the last 2 hours, I'd let myself relax into the work, into the partnership of solving this puzzle together. You're good at this, Raphael said quietly. I looked over at him, surprised. At what? Seeing patterns, reading people. His hand came up to my face, brushing away a strand of hair that had fallen loose. You notice things others miss. It's part of the job. It's more than that. His thumb traced along my cheekbone, and my breath caught. You care about the restaurant, the staff, getting it right. I can't afford not to care, I said. This job is everything to me. I know. His hand slid into my hair, tilting my head back. Your sister's tuition payment cleared this morning. I checked. The reminder of how much he knew, how much power he had over my life, should have terrified me instead. All I could focus on was how close he was, how his eyes had gone dark and intent, how my heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Raphael? His name came out breathless. Tell me to stop. I should have. God, I should have. But I didn't. His mouth came down on mine, and the world caught fire. It wasn't gentle, wasn't sweet. It was rough and demanding, his hand fisting in my hair, his other hand gripping my waist and pulling me out of my chair and into his lap. I gasped against his mouth, and he used the opening to deepen the kiss, to take control, to show me exactly how much he'd been holding back. My hands found his shoulders, then his neck, then his hair, and I kissed him back with 6 months of pretending he didn't affect me, of ignoring how my body responded to his attention, how dangerously close I'd been to falling into this since the moment he'd touched my face in his office and said my name like it belonged to him. His mouth moved to my throat, teeth scraping skin, and I arched into him with a sound I'd never made before, desperate and needy and completely unlike myself. Ava, my name was a growl against my neck. You have no idea how long I've wanted this. Wanted you. His hand slid up my thigh, under my skirt, and reality crashed back in. My phone was buzzing. I pulled back, gasping, my whole body shaking. Raphael's hand tightened on my hip, not wanting to let me go, but I fumbled for my phone on the desk. 6 missed calls from my sister, 3 voicemails. I have to. I tried to stand, but his grip held me in place. Stay. My sister, something's wrong. I pulled up the voicemails with shaking hands, pressed play on the most recent. Ava, where are you? I've been calling for an hour. Mom fell. We're at the hospital. They think it might be her hip. I don't know what to do. Please call me back. The blood drained from my face. Whatever confusion I'd once had about what I felt around Luca, this was nothing like that. This wasn't safe or soft or simple. It was a wildfire I'd let distract me while my family needed me. I have to go. This time when I stood, Raphael let me. I'm sorry, I have to. I'll have a car take you. No, I can take the train. Ava. He stood, his hand cupping my face, forcing me to look at him. Let me help. I should have said no, should have kept that boundary, but I was too scared, too shaken, and I nodded. 10 minutes later, I was in the back of a black SUV, watching Manhattan disappear behind me. My lips still swollen from his kiss, my mind spinning between my mother in a hospital bed and the fact that I'd just crossed a line I could never uncross. And the worst part? I wanted to do it again. My mother's hip was fractured, not broken. Small mercies. I spent the night at the hospital in Queens, holding my sister's hand while we waited for the orthopedic surgeon's report. Emma was 22 and terrified, trying so hard to be brave, and all I could think about was how her next tuition payment was due in 6 weeks and how this hospital bill was going to devastate our parents' already fragile finances. She'll be okay, I told Emma, even though I had no idea if that was true. Physical therapy, maybe a walker for a few weeks. She's tough. We can't afford this, Emma's voice cracked. The insurance doesn't cover everything, and Dad's hours got cut again last month, and I'll handle it, I said. The words automatic even though I had no idea how. My phone buzzed. Is she all right? RT. I stared at the message, my chest tight. He'd had someone drive me here at 3 a.m., had texted twice during the night to check in. Was probably tracking the car's location to know I was still at the hospital. It should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt like someone actually cared. Fractured hip. Surgery tomorrow. She'll recover. Good. Take the day. Marco will cover the restaurant. I should have felt relieved. Instead, unease prickled down my spine. I went back to work the next evening, exhausted and running on 3 hours of sleep. Marco met me at the staff entrance, his expression sympathetic. How's your mom? She'll be okay, thank you. Good, that's good. He walked with me toward my office. Listen, I know you've been dealing with a lot, but we need to talk about the Tommy Ricci situation. I stopped. What about it? I pulled more footage like you asked. Went back 6 months. He handed me his tablet. Look at this. The video showed Tommy in the storage area again, but this time, Luca was with him. They were talking, close together, Tommy handing Luca something that looked like a folded piece of paper. My stomach sank. When was this taken? 2 weeks before Luca was transferred. Marco's voice was carefully neutral. I showed it to Mr. Tarenti this morning. Oh no! What did he say? He wants to see you, today, before dinner service. Marco took the tablet back. I'm sorry, Ava. I know you trusted Luca. He left me standing in the corridor, my mind racing. Something felt wrong. I went to my office and pulled up my own notes from the investigation, the timeline Raphael and I had built together. 2 weeks before Luca's transfer would have been... I checked the date on the footage Marco had shown me. September 8th. But Luca had been in Boston that week. I remembered because he'd called me about a vendor issue while he was there, and I'd handled it myself. I'd even made a joke about him owing me dinner when he got back. I pulled up the staff schedule from September, my hands shaking. There it was. Luca, Boston, Sept. 7/10. He couldn't have been in that storage room on September 8th, which meant the footage was either mislabeled or edited. My heart started pounding. I looked at the security access logs, searching for Marco's name. He'd accessed the camera archives 2 days ago, right before finding this new evidence. That could be innocent. It was his job to review footage. But then I noticed something else. The original incident that had started all of this, the wine delivery that never showed up, had happened on a Wednesday night. Marco had told me he'd discovered the altered vendor portal the next morning. But according to the system logs, the vendor portal had been accessed at 11:47 p.m. on Wednesday night. Our restaurant closed at 11 p.m. I'd been here until 11:30 that night, finishing payroll in my office. Marco had left at 10:45. I'd seen him go. He'd waved goodbye to me on his way out. So who had accessed the vendor portal at 11:47? I pulled up the access credentials used. MB Security Admin. Marco's administrative account. He could have accessed it remotely, I told myself. That didn't prove anything. But my hands were shaking as I dug deeper into the logs, looking for patterns, and I found them. Every single security incident in the past 3 weeks had happened on nights when Marco was the last security staff member to leave. Every piece of evidence pointing to Luca had been discovered by Marco. Every camera angle that showed something suspicious had been accessed by Marco first. It was too much to be coincidence, but it was also too circumstantial to prove anything. I went to Raphael's office at 6, my heart pounding, my evidence feeling both damning and flimsy at the same time. He was standing at the windows, his posture rigid. Close the door, I did, and waited. Marco showed me the new footage. I started carefully. But there's a problem with the date. The timestamp is verified. He turned, and the cold fury in his eyes made me take a step back. I checked it myself. I'm not questioning the timestamp. I'm saying Luca wasn't in New York that day. He was in Boston. I can show you the schedule, the hotel receipts. Schedules can be faked. Receipts can be bought. So can security footage, I said quietly. His expression went dangerous. You're accusing Marco of fabricating evidence. I'm saying someone is. And Marco is the only one with the access and technical knowledge to do it. Marco has been with me for 8 years, Raphael said, his voice dangerously soft. He has no reason to lie, no reason to betray me. Unlike Luca, who was humiliated by being reassigned, who lost access to you. That's not, isn't it? He crossed to me in 3 strides, and I backed up until I hit the door. You've been texting him. Don't lie. I can see the phone records. Secret messages to a man who might be selling me out, and you didn't think to mention it. Guilt flashed through me. I was trying to warn him. You were choosing him over me. His hand slammed against the door beside my head, caging me in. Again, I'm not choosing anyone. I'm trying to find the truth. The truth, he said softly, is that you've been in my world for weeks now, in my office, in my arms, and you still look at him like he's the one you trust, like he's the one who keeps you safe. That's not fair. He wasn't wrong about the safety part. Luca had always been solid ground in a place that felt like quicksand, but that was all it had ever been. Safety, not the way my pulse behaved around Raphael, and I hated that he knew it. Fair? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You want to talk about fair? I've given you everything. Kept your job secure, advanced your pay when you needed it, sent you home in my car when your mother was hurt. And you still... He stopped, jaw clenched. You still think he's the better man. I never said that. You don't have to say it. I can see it every time I mention his name. His hand came up to my throat, not squeezing, just resting there, feeling my racing pulse. You know what the worst part is? I almost convinced myself you wanted this, wanted me, but you were just protecting him, weren't you? Trading yourself for his safety. The accusation hit like a slap. That's not true, I whispered. Isn't it? Tell me, Ava, if I hadn't threatened his position, would you have ever let me touch you? Would you have kissed me back that night if you weren't trying to buy time for your investigation? I opened my mouth, but no words came, because the doubt he was planting was vicious and cruel, and part of me didn't know how to untangle what I felt for him from the fear and desperation that had driven so many of my choices. And the uncertainty in my own mind must have shown on my face, because something in his expression shuddered closed. That's what I thought. He stepped back, his hand falling away. Get out. No, listen to me. The access logs show. I don't want to hear another conspiracy theory about Marco. His voice was flat, final. You're looking for any reason to make Luca innocent because you can't accept that you misjudged him. And you can't accept that your jealousy is making you blind. The words burst out before I could stop them. You're so afraid I'll choose Luca over you that you're ignoring evidence, real evidence, patterns and timestamps and inconsistencies. Circumstantial, he cut in. All of it. You have theories, not proof. Then let me get proof. Give me 2 more days. No. He moved to his desk, picked up his phone. I'm done. Luca's finished. I'm handling this tonight. Terror shot through me. Please, just look at the logs yourself. Check the hotel records. Verify he was in Boston. Even if he was, Raphael said quietly, it doesn't prove Marco is the traitor. It just proves someone else was involved too. The logic was sound and infuriating. You're making a mistake, I said, my voice breaking. The only mistake I made was letting you convince me to wait this long. He looked at me like I was a stranger. You're too close to this, too invested in protecting him. It's clouding your judgment. My judgment, anger flared hot and desperate. You're about to execute a loyal man because you're jealous that I feel safe with him. The words hung in the air between us, brutal and true. Raphael went very still. Get out, he said softly. Before I say something we'll both regret. You already did, I said, tears burning my eyes. You think I'm trading myself for Luca's safety. You think everything between us is manipulation. I think you're confused about what you want, who you want. His voice was cold now, distant. And I'm tired of being second choice. The cruelty of it stole my breath. Fine, I turned for the door. Believe what you want. Punish whoever you want. I'm done trying to save you from yourself. Ava, I didn't stop. I didn't sleep that night. I loved my family, I trusted Luca, and I wanted Raphael. And all three truths were ripping at each other inside my chest. I sat in my tiny Queens apartment, staring at the security logs on my laptop, trying to find something concrete, something undeniable. But Marco was good. Too good. Everything he'd done could be explained away. The remote access, the camera reviews, the timing. Unless I could prove motive. I pulled up employee records, looking for any connection between Marco and Dario Ventresca, the rival boss Raphael had mentioned once in passing. Nothing obvious. No shared addresses, no financial links, wait. Marco's sister had gotten married 2 years ago. I'd seen the photos in his office once. Big wedding, expensive venue. I searched for the sister's married name, and the first result was a glossy wedding announcement. Gianna Bellini Mari's Dante Ventresca. My blood went cold. Ventresca. Marco's sister had married into Dario Ventresca's family. That was motive. That was connection. That was... My apartment's fire alarm went off. I grabbed my phone and laptop, stumbling toward the door, and smelled smoke in the hallway. Not my apartment. The building. I ran for the stairs, my heart slamming against my ribs, and made it outside just as the first fire truck arrived. By the time they contained it, 3 apartments were damaged. Mine wasn't one of them, but standing in the crowd of evacuated tenants, still clutching my laptop, I saw a familiar car parked across the street. Black SUV, tinted windows, the same model and plates I'd seen Marco drive a dozen times leaving the restaurant. He was sending a message. I went to the restaurant at dawn, unwilling to go back to my apartment, too wired to sleep. The building was dark, quiet. I let myself in through the staff entrance and headed for my office, my mind still racing through everything I'd discovered. Marco's sister, the Ventresca connection, the pattern of incidents. I had motive now, I had means, I just needed... You should have left it alone. I spun around. Marco stood in the doorway, his expression calm, almost sympathetic. You couldn't just trust Mr. Tarenti's judgment, he continued. Couldn't just let him handle Luca his way. You had to keep digging. Your sister married a Ventresca, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. You've been feeding information to Dario, sabotaging Raphael's operations from the inside. Very good, he stepped into the office, closing the door behind him. Took you long enough. I was starting to think you weren't as smart as everyone said. Raphael will figure it out. Will he? Marco smiled. He's too busy being jealous of Luca to see what's right in front of him. By the time he realizes his mistake, Dario will have already moved on 3 more of his territories, and Luca will be dead, taking the blame for all of it. I'll tell him everything. You'll try. He pulled something from his jacket. Not a gun, a tablet. But first, you're going to have a very unfortunate accident. Electrical fire in the storage area. You came in early, tried to check the damage from last night's malfunction, and didn't make it out. The fire alarm went off. Real smoke, billowing from the storage area down the hall. No one knows you're here, Marco said calmly, backing toward the door. No one's coming to help. And by the time they find you, the evidence will point exactly where I want it to. He left, locking the door from the outside. I ran to the window, but it was barred for security. The smoke was getting thicker. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and called the only person I could. Ava, Raphael's voice was rough with sleep. It's 6 in the morning. Marco's the traitor, I gasped, coughing as smoke filled the office. His sister married a Ventresca. He locked me in. There's a fire. I can't. The line crackled. Went dead. I didn't know if he'd heard me. I pressed my jacket against my face, dropped to the floor where the air was clearer, and prayed. I was losing consciousness when I heard the explosion. Not fire. Something else. Metal shearing, a door being ripped off its hinges. Then hands on me, lifting me, and Raphael's voice in my ear. I've got you. Stay with me. The cool air outside hit my face like a slap. I gasped, coughing, my lungs burning. Breathe, Raphael ordered, his arms tight around me. Just breathe. I couldn't see clearly through the smoke and tears, but I could feel him, solid, real, terrified in a way I'd never heard before. Marco, I managed. Sister, Ventresca. I know, I heard you. His hand cupped my face. Stay awake. Ava, look at me. I forced my eyes open. His face was above mine, streaked with soot. His expression raw with something that looked like fear. You came, I whispered. Of course I fucking came. His voice cracked. Did you think I wouldn't? Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Can you stand? I nodded, and he helped me up, keeping one arm around my waist when my legs threatened to give out. The restaurant was burning behind us. Not the whole building yet, but the storage area and kitchen were engulfed, flames licking up through broken windows. Marco's gone, I said. He knew I figured it out. He's probably already. He's not gone. Raphael's voice went cold. I had him picked up 20 minutes ago. He's waiting for us. Where? Somewhere we can have a private conversation. He looked down at me, his jaw tight. Can you walk? Yes. Good. Because you're going to be there when I make him tell me everything. The warehouse was in Red Hook, industrial and isolated, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry. Raphael's men had Marco zip-tied to a chair in the center of the empty space. His face was already bruised, blood trickling from his nose. But he was conscious, alert, afraid. Luca was there too, standing off to the side with 2 guards, his expression carefully blank when I walked in with Raphael. Our eyes met for just a second, and I saw the relief flash across his face before he buried it. Ava! Marco's voice was thick with blood and false concern. Thank God you're all right. I tried to get you out, but the fire spread too fast. Don't. Raphael's hand settled on my shoulder. She's not stupid, and neither am I. Marco's expression shifted, calculation replacing the performance of concern. I don't know what she told you, he said, but you need to understand. She's been protecting Luca this whole time. She'd say anything to. Your sister Gianna married Dante Ventresca 3 years ago, I said, my voice hoarse from the smoke. Dario Ventresca's nephew. That makes you family. That gives you access to both organizations. That gives you motive to destabilize Raphael's legitimate businesses so Dario can expand his territory. Marco went very still. The footage you showed of Luca and Tommy Ricci was dated September 8th, I continued. But Luca was in Boston that week. I have hotel records, flight receipts, and vendor meeting logs that prove it. Which means you edited that footage, spliced together clips from different dates to make it look like they were conspiring. That's... The wine delivery that started all of this was rerouted at 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday. I cut him off. You'd already left the building, but the access credentials used were yours, your administrative account. The only way that happens is if you did it remotely, which means you're the one who altered the delivery in the first place. Raphael's hand tightened on my shoulder. Every security incident in the past month happened on your watch, I said. Every piece of evidence pointing to Luca was discovered by you. Every camera angle that showed something suspicious was accessed by you first. You had means, motive, and opportunity. Prove it, Marco spat. Prove any of it. I already did. Raphael stepped forward, pulling out his phone. While you were busy trying to kill Ava this morning, I was pulling your financial records. Wire transfers from an account owned by Gianna Ventresca. $50,000 in the past 6 months, paid in increments small enough not to trigger alerts. Sloppy, Marco. I expected better from you. The color drained from Marco's face. And then there's this. Raphael swiped to a different screen. Security footage from your office last night. You, on the phone with someone, saying, and I quote, "The restaurant fire will finish it. Torrente will be so busy blaming Luca that he won't see Dario's move on the docks until it's too late." Marco's expression crumpled. "You bugged my office?" "I bug everything," Raphael said softly. "It's how I've stayed alive this long." Raphael turned to Luca, his expression unreadable. "You were in Boston September 7th through 10th? "Yes, sir." Luca's voice was steady. "Meeting with the Gallo family vendors about the new supplier contract. I can provide—" "I already verified it." Raphael studied him for a long moment. "You had nothing to do with any of this." "No, sir." "And you—" Raphael turned to me, something complicated in his eyes. "You knew from the beginning. You tried to tell me." "I tried," I said quietly, "and I didn't listen." He looked back at Marco, and the cold fury on his face made me take an involuntary step back. Because I was too busy being jealous, too busy proving that I owned something that was never mine to own in the first place. He crossed to Marco in 3 strides. "You used my weakness against me," Raphael said, his voice soft and deadly. "You saw how I looked at her, saw how I reacted when she trusted Luca, and you played me like a fucking violin." Marco said nothing. "How long have you been working for Dario?" Silence. Raphael backhanded him across the face, the crack of it echoing through the warehouse. "How long?" 2 years, Marco gasped. "Since Gianna married Dante. Dario approached me at the wedding. Said he could make me rich if I kept him informed. Small things at first. Schedules, shipment routes. Then bigger things. Access codes, security gaps. And the restaurant? Dario wanted your legitimate fronts destabilized. Wanted to prove you couldn't protect your own territory. Wanted your associates to start questioning your leadership." Marco spat blood. "The restaurant was just the beginning. We had plans for the clubs, the real estate holdings, everything." "We," Raphael repeated. "You and Dario. Me, Dario, and 6 of your other people." Marco smiled through bloody teeth. "You think I'm the only one? You think this was just me?" The revelation hit like a shockwave. Raphael went very still. Then he pulled out his gun. "No," I stepped forward without thinking, my hand on his arm. "Don't." He looked down at me, his eyes cold and empty. "He tried to kill you. I know, but if you kill him, you prove Dario right. You prove you're losing control. You prove—" I stopped, swallowed hard. "You prove that your anger is stronger than your strategy. He doesn't deserve mercy." "I'm not asking you to be merciful," I said quietly. "I'm asking you to be smart." Raphael stared at me for a long moment. Then he lowered the gun. "You're right." He turned to his men. "Take him to the Federal Building. Anonymous tip about illegal surveillance equipment, evidence tampering, and conspiracy to commit arson. Make sure the DA gets everything, the wire transfers, the phone recordings, all of it." Marco's eyes went wide. "You can't." "I can, and I am." Raphael's voice was flat. "You'll spend the next 20 years in a federal prison. No parole, no deals. No protection from me when Dario's people find out you gave up names to save yourself." "I didn't give up any names." "You will," Raphael said. "They always do." He nodded to his men, and they dragged Marco away, his protests echoing through the warehouse until the door slammed shut. Then it was just the 3 of us, Raphael, Luca, and me. Raphael turned to Luca. "I owe you an apology." Luca blinked, clearly not expecting that. "Sir." "I doubted you, accused you, was ready to—" Raphael stopped, his jaw tight. "I was wrong. You've been loyal to me for 8 years, and I let jealousy make me blind to it." "You were protecting what's yours," Luca said carefully. "I understand." "Do you?" Raphael's voice was sharp. "Do you understand that I nearly killed you because I couldn't stand the way she looked at you? Because I wanted her loyalty and her trust and her—" He stopped himself. It was inexcusable. "You didn't, though," Luca said. "You listened to her. You gave her time to investigate. You made the right call in the end. Because of her, not because of me." Raphael looked at me then, something raw and unguarded in his expression. "She saved your life, and mine, and probably a dozen other people who would have been caught in Dario's expansion." Luca followed his gaze, then cleared his throat. I'll, give you two some privacy. He headed for the door, then paused. Ava, thank you, for believing in me when no one else did. You earned it, I said softly. Always. He left. And then it was just Raphael and me in the empty warehouse, surrounded by the wreckage of everything that had almost gone wrong. You were right about all of it, Raphael said finally. Marco, the evidence, my jealousy making me stupid. Not stupid, I said. Just human. Human isn't good enough in my world. Human gets people killed. He crossed to me slowly, stopping just out of reach. I said terrible things to you yesterday. Things I can't take back. You thought I was using you to protect Luca. I knew you weren't, he corrected quietly. I was just afraid that what you felt for me wasn't real, that I'd forced it somehow, leveraged your job and your family and your fear into something that looked like... He stopped. Into something I wanted so badly I couldn't see clearly anymore. My throat went tight. What did you want? You, he said simply. Not your obedience, not your fear. You, your trust, your... He stopped. And something vulnerable crossed his face. The way you looked at Luca. Safe. Like you knew he'd never hurt you. I wanted you to look at me like that. That's not who you are, I said gently. You're dangerous. You hurt people. You live in a world where safety is an illusion. I know. But... I stepped closer, my hand finding his. You came for me this morning. You listened when I called. You believed me even though it meant admitting you were wrong. You chose evidence over ego. Strategy over violence. Because of you. No, I said firmly. Because of who you are when you're not letting your wounds control you. His hand came up to my face, trembling slightly. I can't promise I won't be jealous, he said. I can't promise I won't want to lock you away where no one else can touch you or see you or make you smile. That's who I am. That's what I am. I know. But I can promise. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. I can promise to listen when you tell me I'm wrong, to trust your judgment, to remember that you're not some possession to be controlled. He stopped, swallowed hard. You're the smartest, bravest, most stubborn woman I've ever met. And if you'll still have me, I'll spend every day proving that I'm worth the risk. Tears burned at the back of my throat. My sister's tuition is due in 4 weeks, I said. My mother's medical bills are going to be astronomical. My apartment building is damaged, and I'll probably have to move. The restaurant is going to be closed for at least 2 weeks, which means no performance bonus. I'll take care of all of it, Raphael said immediately. No. I stepped back, and his hand fell away. You won't take care of it. We will. Together. As partners. You'll give me a raise that's justified by my performance. You'll help me restructure my mother's payment plan through legitimate channels. You'll invest in repairing the restaurant because it's a good business decision, not because you're trying to buy my loyalty. His eyes widened slightly. You're setting terms. I am, I said. Because if I'm going to be with you, if I'm going to stay in your world, I need to know I'm choosing it. Not being forced into it, not being bought. Choosing. And your sister, your family? My family is mine to protect, I said firmly. You can help, you can support, but they're not leverage, they're not hostages. They're off limits for anything except legitimate, respectful assistance. Raphael studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled, real and genuine and almost relieved. Done, he said. Anything else? Luca gets his old position back, with an apology, a real one, already planned. And I took a breath. And you remember that I'm good at my job, that I'm competent, that when I tell you something doesn't add up, you trust me enough to investigate before you pull a trigger. I will, he said quietly. I promise. I looked at him, really looked at him. This dangerous, powerful, wounded man who had nearly destroyed everything because he was too afraid to believe someone could choose him freely. Okay, I said. Okay? Okay, I choose you. I stepped into his space, my hands finding his chest. I choose this. Your world, your danger, your jealousy and your wounds and your terrible habit of threatening people you care about. But I choose it as your partner, not your possession. His arms came around me, pulling me close, and when he kissed me, it was nothing like that desperate, consuming kiss in his office. This was slow, reverent, a promise instead of a claim. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you," he murmured. "Good," I said, "because I'm going to spend the rest of mine making sure you never forget who I am." He laughed, actually laughed, and the sound of it made something warm and bright bloom in my chest. 3 weeks later, the restaurant reopened. The repairs had been extensive, but Raphael had hired the best contractors, and the result was stunning. The same elegant space I'd worked so hard to perfect, but updated, refined, better. The staff was back. Luca was back, reinstated as operations lieutenant with a raise and a formal apology that had shocked him silent for a full minute. And I was back in my office, reviewing the opening night reservations when Raphael walked in. "We're fully booked," I said, not looking up from my tablet. 2-month waiting list for weekend tables. The review in the Times didn't hurt. I saw. He closed the door behind him. "You're going to make me a fortune." "That was always the plan." He moved behind my desk, his hands settling on my shoulders. I leaned back into the touch, some of the tension leaving my body. "Your sister's semester is paid," he said quietly. "Scholarship fund from an anonymous donor. Full ride through graduation, as long as she maintains her GPA. My throat went tight. "Raphael." "Anonymous," he emphasized. "She earned it with her grades. I just made sure the opportunity existed. And your mother's bills are being handled through a payment plan with the hospital foundation. Nothing that'll raise questions. Nothing that'll make anyone uncomfortable." "Thank you," I whispered. "You don't have to thank me." His lips brushed my temple. "Taking care of you means taking care of the people you love. That's not leverage. That's just—" He paused. "That's just what people do when they care about each other." I turned in my chair, looking up at him. "Say it again." "What?" "That you care about me." Something soft crossed his face. "I care about you," Ava Calder. "More than I've cared about anyone in a very long time, possibly ever." "Good," I said, standing and sliding my arms around his neck. "Because I care about you too, even when you're impossible. Even when you're jealous and possessive and terrifying." "Only sometimes terrifying?" "Most of the time," I corrected. And he smiled against my mouth. The kiss deepened, his hands sliding to my waist, and for a moment I let myself forget about reservations and staff schedules and opening night chaos. For a moment, I just let myself feel this. The safety and danger tangled together. The certainty that I'd chosen something real and complicated and mine. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and flushed, Raphael rested his forehead against mine. "I love you," he said quietly. "I know it's too soon. I know I don't have the right, but I need you to know." "I know," I said, because I did. I'd known since he'd torn a door off its hinges to pull me out of a burning building, since he'd chosen to listen instead of act, since he'd let me set terms instead of just taking what he wanted. And his voice was uncertain in a way I'd never heard before, and I smiled, rising on my toes to kiss him softly. "Ask me again in 6 months, when you've proven you can handle me having lunch with Luca without losing your mind." He groaned. "That's a long time." "It is," I agreed. "But you're a patient man when you want to be." "I'm really not." "Then I guess you'll learn." I stepped back, straightening my blouse. "Now get out of my office. I have an opening night to run, and you're distracting me." "Distracting you is my favorite thing to do." "Out," I said, but I was smiling. He left, pausing at the door to look back at me. "Ava." "Yes?" "Thank you for choosing this, for choosing me." "Thank you for being worth choosing," I said softly. And as he disappeared into the hallway and I turned back to my work, I felt it, the bone-deep certainty that I'd made the right call. 6 months later, Raphael asked me again. He waited until a day that already felt like a miracle. It was a Sunday afternoon in early spring, the first warm day after a brutal winter. We'd closed the restaurant for a deep clean that morning, and instead of letting the place sit empty, I'd done something that would have terrified the version of me who started here 6 months ago. I'd invited my family for lunch, not a fancy tasting menu, Just pasta and roast chicken and my mother's favorite tiramisu, made exactly the way she liked it. Emma showed up still half in her scrubs, her hair twisted into a messy bun, eyes bright and tired in that way only nursing students seem to manage. My parents walked in slowly together, my mother using a cane now, but moving on her own. "Look at this place," she whispered, turning in a slow circle under the chandeliers. "My daughter runs this." Pride warmed my chest in a way money never could. Raphael stayed in the background at first, letting me fuss over their coats, their seats, the little reserved sign I'd set on our favorite corner table like any other guest would see. He only joined us once everyone had plates in front of them, sliding into the empty chair beside me with a politeness that made my father raise an eyebrow. "Mr. Torrente," my dad said carefully. "Raphael is fine," he answered, and for once there was no sharpness under the words. "Thank you for letting me steal Ava for such long hours. I know what it cost your family." My mother's eyes softened. "You take care of her, that's what matters." His hand found my knee under the table, a brief squeeze that said he felt the weight of that blessing. Halfway through dessert, Luca dropped by the table with a tray of espresso, pretending it was purely a service decision and not an excuse to check on me. "You're supposed to be off today," I told him. "And you're supposed to delegate," he shot back. "Figured I'd lead by example." My father laughed. Emma did too. My mother asked Luca a dozen questions about the kitchen and the staff, like she was interviewing him to see if he was worthy of the place I'd given him in my stories. When I stood to walk my family to the door, I hugged Luca on reflex, a quick, tight squeeze of gratitude for all the ways he'd backed me, all the ways he'd almost died because of someone else's jealousy. "Don't let the boss work you too hard," he murmured. "Which one?" I teased. He grinned and let me go. I felt Raphael watching, of course. I always did. But when I came back to the table, he only arched a brow. "Lunch with Luca," he said quietly. "No one died. No furniture was broken. I even refrained from threatening him once." "That you know of," I said, but my smile took the sting out of it. He huffed out a breath that might have been a laugh. "Progress, then." We finished closing the restaurant together, running through the week's prep, the numbers, a new reservation policy I wanted to test. It felt like any other night, busy, practical, ordinary. It wasn't until we stepped out onto the small balcony off my office, the city spread out in front of us in glittering lines of light, that I realized he'd been waiting for this moment. "Ava," he said, and there was something in his voice that made me turn fully toward him. "It's been 6 months. I know." My heart kicked up because I remembered exactly what I'd told him to do at the 3-week mark. "Have I passed the test?" His mouth curved, but his eyes were serious. "I haven't handled everything perfectly. I still want to put Luca on a plane to somewhere very far away, at least once a week. But I listened when you said I was wrong. I kept your family out of my business. You apologized to my staff when you snapped during the Valentine's rush," I cut in. "You let me overrule you on the security cameras in the ladies' room. You sat at my mother's kitchen table last month and ate her overcooked lasagna without complaining once." "That was a trial by fire," he muttered. "You also," I continued, ignoring him, "signed off on 2 raises I fought for, and you didn't ask for anything in return." He studied me in the quiet that followed. For once there was no wall in his gaze, no calculation. Just a man who'd torn a door off its hinges for me, and then spent 6 months learning how not to treat me like something he owned. "I love you," he said again, more simply this time. No threats, no bargains, just that. The first time he'd said it, I told him to ask me again in 6 months. Now, standing there with the city humming below us and the restaurant glowing warm and full behind us, I realized my answer had been the same all along. It had just taken me time to trust it. "I love you too," I said. The words felt steady, chosen. "And if you ever forget that I'm your partner and not your possession, I will remind you." Loudly. His smile was slow and genuine. "I'm counting on it." When he kissed me, it wasn't a wildfire, stealing my breath and my judgment. It was something deeper, grounded in all the nights we'd argued over staffing and safety and how much of my life I was willing to let his world touch. Danger and safety, tangled together. Choice, not fear. When we finally went back inside, the restaurant was dark and quiet, waiting for the next service, the next storm, the next impossible night. My life was still complicated, still dangerous, still balanced on the edge of a world I'd never imagined being part of. But it was mine, my choice, my risk, my future. And for the first time in a very long time, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe so you don't miss the next Mafia love story. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what you thought of this narrator. Your feedback really helps me make these even better for you. Thank you for letting my stories keep you company. It truly means more than you know.